This evening's presentation is going to be short, hopefully sweet, and fantastic graphics. Compliments of a nice teenager that does graphics. I think you'll like it. From the heart is the topic. It fits in with the first two. Soul-to-soul relationships, honoring differences, and from the heart. Where this is going is a little bit about empathic or empathy, the empathic elements within relationships, loving relationships. At times, our heart may feel murky, closed off, inaccessible. And at other times, it feels vibrant, receptive, and secure. It's kind of like an artist's display here. In a world of constant change and many demands, how can we reach the stage where our heart is always soft and compassionately giving? Or most of the time at least. The answer is bhakti, continuous devotional service to Krishna. And we saw, and together we recited this verse. We can do one more time. This cornerstone verse for the whole of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because it's the definition of what bhakti is. So we'll chant together, please. Anya bilasata shunyam jnana karma dhyanavratam anukalyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. The highest bhakti is defined as continuous service or emotions directed towards Krishna, his expansion forms, or others related to him, with a pleasing attitude towards Krishna. So that's underlined. That's anukulyena Krishna, that which is favorable, or a pleasing attitude towards Krishna. It should be devoid of desires other than the desire to please the Lord, and unobstructed by impersonal gyan, the materialistic rituals of karma, and other unfavorable acts. So it's translated in reverse here. The first part is what bhakti isn't, the second part of what bhakti is. Okay, so continuous service or emotions directed towards Krishna, with pleasing attitude towards Krishna. So what's at the heart of bhakti? Another nice graphic. According to this verse, there's hearts within hearts within hearts. So anya bilashita shunyam, that's on the outside. What bhakti isn't, something missing here. Choosing bhakti as the supreme goal. We discussed this morning a little bit. What's the common interest? Remember the question? As opposed to not having shared or common interest. So choosing Krishna as the supreme goal. And so it's minus jnana and karma, and it's trusting bhakti as the absolute process. So there's a heart that has the 9 processes of bhakti. Anushilanam, that's accepting. That's it. One of the hearts. Anyabhinashadashunyam jnana karma janavratam anukulyena krishna anushilanam. So that's bhakti is the objective. And the objective of bhakti is pleasing Krishna. And at the heart, so this is, let's go back. The intent to please Krishna. That's the common interest or the shared, that's at the heart of bhakti part that bhaktas have in common. The intent to please Krishna. Anukulyena. There's supposed to be a document that you are all going to receive. Did you all receive the document? Or not yet? Could you get mine? It's upstairs. Some of you may know this verse. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. Anyone here know the verse? Nitya Siddha. One knows the verse. Siddha, you know, perfection. So, Nitya Siddha, eternal perfection. Eternal perfection is Krishna Prema. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya. So there's the sadhana to reach sadhya. The fruit of sadhana is sadhya, the goal. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi, it is said, Shravanadi, Shravana, Adi, beginning with Shravanas or Shravanam Kirtanam, the 9 processes of bhakti. Shravanadi, beginning with Shravana. 9 processes of bhakti. Bells are ringing. Any bells? 9 processes of bhakti. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam, that's the first 3. Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Sakyam, Dasyam, Atmanivedanam. We skipped one. Which is the one I skipped? Padasevanam. Thanks. Okay. The 9 processes of bhakti, and they begin with Shravana. So Shravanadi, Shuddha, Chitte. One's consciousness becomes Shuddha, pure. Karye Udoy, it is said. There's an inherent intention to please Krishna within the heart of every living entity. Yes? That's what is being said here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we're going to cover this point a little bit because the topic is from the heart. And the heart, at the heart, literally in this body, there's a soul. And what's the heart of bhakti is the intent to please Krishna. So the intention that Krishna should be pleased, or love for Krishna, it's already there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. And the way to bring it out, Shravanadi Shuddha, is that sadhana. Shuddha Chitta, it awakens that which is already there, the inherent intention to please Krishna. So that now comes in the lower right corner there, nitya dharma. And we'll hear a little bit what the nitya dharma term means. This is a Bhaktivinoda Thakur term. Therefore, to connect the heart, connecting to the heart means to access that which is truly of substance in every living entity. It's nitya dharma, which is the desire to please Krishna. So this is very similar to Srila Prabhupada's definition of dharma, which I'm sure you've heard before. Here it is again. The dharma of something is its constitutional nature, like the dharma of sugar is sweet, the dharma of chili is pungent, the dharma of something is its natural essence. So what's the dharma of the, because jiva dharma, what's the dharma of the jiva? It's the whole book is by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is on that topic. It's nitya dharma. its true substance, its true essence. That's what it is. That's what it is. So Prabhupada's statement is, our dharma is to serve. You can't take service from the living entity. This is Prabhupada's. So then in its pure state, because entities, things, have a pure state and a contaminated state. So in the pure, like pure gold, let's say the dharma of fire is heat and light. You can't take away heat or take away light and still have fire. You can't take away the service mood from living entity because it's his dharma. And then there's sanatana dharma, what's the eternal activity of living entity to serve Krishna. In Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Jaiva Dharma, it's nitya dharma. So this little document says some of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has to say about nitya dharma. Here's some more. Executing the process of bhakti is to uncover that real substance, or nitya dharma, the seed of intention to please Krishna, and to allow its natural life to flourish, one that surpasses all preconditions, one that is supremely beneficial to oneself and all other jivas. So that's pretty important. It's who we really are. It's beneficial to us. It's beneficial to others. It's a nice way to live. That which is our nitya dharma. Once we connect to this place in our heart, service to Krishna becomes so intrinsic to our being. So it's there, it's dormant, like a seed. And seeds can stay dormant for a long, long time. And then at some point, maybe someone will fructify. There's some things that help to fructify seeds so they start to sprout. So there's things similarly that help to fructify this nitya dharma. That's sadhana bhakti. Just as a downpour of rain brings life to the awaiting earth, and the seeds within the earth as well, our practice of bhakti becomes enlivened. The awakening of the nitya dharma. More nice graphics. As bhakti becomes enlivened, then there's characteristics of bhakti. One of them, being highlighted in this little presentation, is compassion. That, you're the affective element, the feeling element. We discussed this first evening, priti. The feeling dimension of life on the spiritual platform, or priti. The inherent compassion within the heart becomes accessible. So let's go back a bit. There's a seed. There's some things that can fructify the seed. And when the seed fructifies, the seed of our inherent quality, our nitya dharma quality, when that fructifies, then there's characteristics that come out, like the sprout and the leaves and more leaves and so forth. So compassion is one of those characteristics, or lakshana, of bhakti. The inherent compassion within the heart becomes accessible. When communication is rooted in this compassion, it is truly empathic. So a little clue, this presentation was made in Gitanagari during the second year that Bir Krishna Maharaj gave his presentation on empathic communication. So that was like a setup, or, it's a warm-up to what he was going to present, what empathic communication is. But my message here, and message to you, nonviolent communication as opposed to violent communication. And empathic communication it's of the soul. It's inherent. It's natural. And then it's truly with feeling, with the right empathy for others. Compassion does not have a separate existence from bhakti. No, there's certainly a sensibility of compassion that people may have that are not bhaktas. But it's using the same term that we used before, semblance, or it's a reflection. There's the real thing and there's the reflection of the real thing. And the reflection of the real thing doesn't have the same power, potency, efficacy that the real thing has. An object and the reflection of the object are not identical. There's not substance in the reflection. It may look like the real thing, but it's not. Easy. Supposing you see a tree that's reflected in water, and in the reflection of the water you see an apple on the tree that's reflected in the water. If you try to get the apple, there's no substance because it's just a reflection. It looks like. And the reality, our worldly or material reality, is the reflection, not the object that's casting the reflection. This is a fundamental concept in spiritual life, but it's worth hearing it again and again. So, in the course of time, okay. We're in La La Land, and there's a reality that this La La Land is a reflection of. There is a real thing. There is reality. You wanted to pause and discuss something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you think that someone can achieve true bhakti through other traditions.
Sure. Because tradition isn't the essence. This tradition, that tradition. Bhakti, when you take bhakti and strip it down, or take its essence, what's the essence? Because that was the starting point. So is that essence encapsulated by other traditions? Of course it is. It's because it's a principle. It's not a form. The form can take different shapes, but it's the essence. So if the essence is there, can it manifest the real thing? Yes. Other traditions have bhakti. It's okay? Okay. Acts that bring pain to a dear one are not a sign of compassion or love. We had this discussion. Maybe you remember the discussion. The discussion about firing arrows at Grandfather Bhishma. Remember? Anyone not familiar? And I need to remind you. So this is a little painting. Krishna's over there. Krishna's the chariot driver, and Arjuna is firing arrows at Grandfather Bhishma, a whole lot of arrows. And Bhishma's getting ready to fire arrows back. So that looks like they're giving pain to each other. And yet, while the appearance was they're giving pain to each other, it was an ecstatic exchange. We had some discussion on this. This is quoting from another book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Chaitanya Shikshamrita. This is just a cut and paste from his book. When a person takes shelter of bhakti, mercy towards all living entities is a natural quality. This is the soul, compassion unto the soul. Compassion does not have separate existence from bhakti. The quality which, when offered to the Lord, is called bhakti or prema, becomes friendship, compassion, and indifference when directed towards other living beings. It is a feeling that is inherent in the eternal nature of the soul. In the spiritual realm, this quality manifests only as friendship, but in the material world it manifests as friendship towards devotees, mercy towards the innocent, and indifference towards the offenders. This is the Madhyama. Are you with me? Madhyama, that's us, middle stage, practicing. So there's the Supreme Lord, there's the devotees, there's the innocent, and there's the atheists or offenders. So indifference towards the offenders, not involving our lives with those offensive people, being merciful towards those who are less advanced, making friendships with those who are also devotees, and worshiping the Supreme Lord. So this is the Majjhima definition. He's not using the nomenclature, but that's what he's doing. These are but different aspects of the same compassion. So he is indicating in this book that he's writing, compassion is of the soul. When the soul becomes awakened, then in the intermediate stage of that awakening, it's not the prema stage yet, but when that intermediate stage, then that compassion comes out in different ways. When it's the same compassion, then it's of the soul compassion, which doesn't have a separate existence from bhakti. In the conditioned state, this compassion is extremely stunted. It starts with affection for the individual body, then widens to include the attachment to one's household, then to varna, then to countrymen. Expanding, it may grow to include the human beings of the whole world. Concentric circles out, but the center is not on the spiritual plane. However, compassion becomes complete when directed towards all living entities. Patriotism is but a limited aspect of this sentiment in relation to a country. Philanthropy is compassion directed towards all humanity. However, Vaishnavas should not be limited by these mundane sentiments. They should have compassion for the complete range of living entities, not wanting to cause harm to any of them, human or otherwise. So these are common, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is doing, in much of what he was doing, what he's doing here as well, is he's taking the tradition, the concepts of tradition, and placing it in the context of modernity. There's a book written about him, One in Modernity. Modernity is a word that was used at that time. You know, the Industrial Revolution and what's going on and sensibilities and how people are doing things and their values. And so philanthropy is not a new idea, but during his time, philanthropy had certain ideas of when you have compassion, you do things for poor people and open hospitals and start schools, and you do compassionate work. And he's in this particular section, he's taking the tradition and the concepts of the tradition and placing it in the context of modernity. And saying, you know, it's nice, but it's limited. And he wants to expand to his readers. And his readers are not just, Hare Krishna guys sitting in an ashram. It's the world. His world, the world is his audience, and he wants to expand the understanding and spiritualize that expanded understanding of what compassion is. And it's spiritually rooted, or rooted within the soul. The ability to stay connected to this heart space requires steadiness or faith in practice. There's some question about, regulation and practice and so on. See, here are some persons that were most elevated. Raghunath Das Goswami, Queen Kunti. We discussed Queen Kunti a bit. We're going to discuss her some more. And, very consistent. On the right side, Prahlad Maharaj, the tribulations he was put through, Queen Kunti in the pulling of her heart as Krishna is leaving her and her sons to go to Dwarka to be with his associates and her relatives in Dwarka. This particular painting on the left side, Raghunath Das, I don't know if you recognize the scene. he's chanting japa with such absorption by the side of Radhakund that he doesn't even notice there's a lion or tiger that's come to drink water at Radhakund, and he just absorbs, and he wouldn't even have known it except at a distance Sanatana Goswami noticed it. He was oblivious. But Super Soul was protecting him because besides being thirsty, then maybe that lion could have been hungry, but it didn't bother him because Super Soul directed him otherwise. He was protected by his bhakti. And the story is in Bhakti Sandarbha, the Bhakti Ratnakar. Sanatana Goswami watched the whole thing, didn't jump in. When the animal went away, he came up to Raghunath Das and interrupted his trance-like meditation and said, You made Krishna serve you. That's not good. We're meant for serving Krishna. And Krishna serving you? You're so renounced that Krishna has to serve you? So please, build yourself, or we can build it for you, a little bhajan kutir. You can sit and do your chanting, and this isn't going to happen. And Raghunath Das said, yes, yes. He didn't build a bhajan kutir. Because he was, it wasn't into material comforts. Even it was for protection. Anyway. Staying connected to heart space. But Raghunath Das was very, very fixed. We discussed this. Very, very fixed. Topmost stage of bhakti, and at the same time very fixed in his regulation, his faith and practice. Oh, and so many examples. Haridas Thakur, and so many examples. When there is a disconnect, we communicate from the platform of mind or intelligence in order to defend or satisfy our false ego. That's the norm in less than this elevated stage. When we feel loving shelter and protection in our relationship with Guru and Krishna's qualities such as tolerance and respect for others without expecting any in return will develop. So which comes first? The chicken or the egg? That question, do I focus on this or do I focus on that? The Trinadapi Sunichena, Toror Iva. So those that Shikshastaka 3 is given as a remedy or a medicine, an antidote to the end of Shikshastaka 2. The end of Shikshastaka 2 is, I don't have any attraction. Nanu raga, I have no attraction for the holy name. I know it has this and that and those glories, and so forth and so on, but I'm so unfortunate, I have no attraction. So Shikshastaka 3 is the remedy, and it's humility, Trinadapi Sunichena, tolerance, Torora of Ivasahishnana, Amanina Manadena, without expectation of respect from others, while offering all respect to others. That's the 4 items in the Shikshastaka 3. There's seminars built just on that Shikshastaka 3. It's an important step in improving our japa. Improving our japa means improving our spiritual life. To enter into that place where there's, at the heart level, a sense of being connected and protected by that connection. Now here's the final slide, and it's so nice, it's shown 3 times. And it keeps moving. Establishing these qualities will touch and transform the hearts of others in amazing and unexpected ways. So I've been discussing When you encounter a situation that's challenging, we had different ways of characterizing what a challenging situation might look like. Some of you offered some challenging situations, what it might look like, what to do, how to deal with it. So one of the ways to deal with it is become Krishna conscious, or I was saying purity. And when purity is there, it can transform the situation. We'll say it negatively. If purity isn't there, good luck that the situation is going to change or get better. Or say it positively. When purity is there, when these qualities are there, it helps to transform the hearts of others in amazing and unexpected ways. So it's such a nice message. Here it is again. Still moving. Exhibiting these qualities will touch and transform the hearts of others in amazing and unexpected ways. And it's what you do, what you say, but more important, it's what you're carrying in your heart. And because when something is being carried in the heart, the quality that surrounds you is different. It's easier said than done to come to that stage where the original consciousness of the soul is awakened, but little by little, as it becomes awakened, it has a transformation effect, a changing of the hearts of others effect in amazing and unexpected ways. And it's such a nice statement. Here it is again. Only this one isn't moving. Exhibiting these qualities will touch and transform the hearts of others in amazing and unexpected ways. And that's the bhakti principle. That which is inherent in others can be awakened by, we can be agents for awakening that which is inherent in others by carrying that quality ourselves. Of late, I've had different audiences where there's young people, even high school kids in the audience, and at the end, the hand goes up. I understand the importance of sadhu sangha, and I find there's sadhu sangha when I come to the temple, because in the temple. But when I go to school, there isn't sadhu sangha. So how do I handle it? This is the how do I handle it question. How do I handle it? So one of the answers that I gave was this one. I didn't say it this way, but you can be a little nimitta, an instrument of Krishna. Like Arjuna is told by Krishna, nimitta matra bhavya sabhya sachin. Matram, become an instrument. Nimitta matram, become my instrument, Arjuna. So become the instrument of, so you receive sadhu sangha at the temple and wherever you get it, and you're going into school and there isn't sadhu sangha. So you'll be an instrument of, you exemplify the character and quality, and most important, in your heart, because when the heart is there, the characteristics and qualities will be there. And you become an instrument to bring about a change in others. And you're praying to Krishna. You gave me this seed of bhakti. You're awakening that bhakti by sadhu sangha. So what is it that I can do? Please give me the intelligence, what I can do, besides being a nice devotee in the school here. And others may become attracted, and others may have their hearts changed, because others may say, and sometimes it happens, you're different. What's with you? And they may not directly say it, or they may directly say it. I've had persons tell me in the workplace, you're different. What is it about you? And it can change hearts just by having your heart oriented this way. In real time, not just like storybook. I'm going to tell a little story. And then this is it. This is the last slide for this evening's presentation. Some years ago, there was a devotee who worked at the Board of Education for the city of New York. And the office of the Board of Education was about 5 blocks away from the temple, the Brooklyn Temple, Radha Govinda Mandir. So this devotee got a book. Somehow they got a book. And from reading the book, something happened. And from reading the book and something happened, they found out where the temple is. They started coming to the temple. They were coming every day during their lunch break to see the midday arti at Radha Govinda Temple. Just on their own, like wasn't someone was holding their hand. And this is a mature person, been through lots of stuff. And their heart, and then chanting japa. And so back at the workplace, there was another lady who was the supervisor of this one. This one, imagine if you had the service of being in charge of all the guidance counseling departments of the entire public school system of New York City. That was what her service was. And then he had a supervisor. So the supervisor noticed there's some changes happening. And she said to her underling, "What's going on with you? You've become different." And she said, "I don't know if you want to know." "No, I want to know." She said, Hare Krishna. "Oh no, Hare Krishna." Because her supervisor during her education days was a anti-establishment revolutionary. And she saw the Hare Krishna people were cop-outs. Getting down there in the trenches and doing the hard work to make changes. They're off there banging tambourines and singing and, useless people. Don't be a useless person. You're not a useless person. Don't do that. And she just smiled and continued doing what she was doing. And as happens in life, her supervisor had a calamity. Her husband was diagnosed as having terminal cancer. It wasn't just chemo, it was like terminal cancer. And she was very disturbed. And at the same time, her underling is becoming, deeper and exhibiting the quality of one who's deeper. She said, "You're always very calm." And all of us are in a frenzy, and you're over there reading your book. And when I go to you and what to do, you already have the answer, and then you go back to your book. Like, tell me, what is it? She said, "I already told you." And then when she found out about her husband's cancer, she said, "Can you take me to your teacher?" So she came. The teacher told me her story. "I used to think you're nonsense people, useless people. But I see in this individual," so she was inimical at the core, inimical, not just neutral. She was inimical. And now she's coming to meet the teacher of this person has become a nice Hare Krishna devotee. Now, what do I do? What to do doesn't change. How it's expressed is, situation specific. Her husband's diagnosed of terminal cancer. So there's empathy, but it has to empathy when the opportunity is provided. Even if the opportunity isn't provided, it's empathy for the soul, but empathy for the soul. And when it's coming from a genuine place, I don't know what happened after that. I know that her husband died of cancer because it was diagnosed like that. And I don't know if she carried on with her bhakti interest and anything like that. Don't know. But her life had changed, and permanent change, meaning even it got covered over again, it's a permanent change. It's a transformation that came about by someone in her workplace having qualities that touched and transformed their heart away from Krishna toward Krishna. So the foundation, just circling back, the foundation of this little presentation is the heart of bhakti is that verse, Anyabhilasha shunyam gyanakarma janavritam. That's what it isn't. Then anukalyena krishna anushilanam. At the heart of bhakti, bhakti is the heart of transformation, and the heart of transformation is the intention to please Krishna. And as that becomes the focus, where is he? The shorter devotee that always has this answer. What's his name, first of all? Moses? Moses. Okay. He's got it. And, at least not just in the mouth level, but, it's entered into him somehow. Somehow. He heard it and it's with him. This is the essence of what we're wanting to do. Krishna is our only shelter. We have no other shelter. And because he's my only shelter, naturally, there's the idea of I want to please stay connected without being disconnected. Just get there because it's natural to us. That's this nitya dharma message. So I think I should spend a little bit of time with. Jaiva Dharma is a very important text in many ways. The book is thick. It's but one of the magnus opus, or so to speak. It says a very comprehensive writing of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he goes through, many things, essence things, and presents them. It's like it's a book review of 4 different key books, all in one book, in a somewhat modern context. Very brilliant, lots of details. But the essence is all resting upon this nitya dharma message. So he calls, is this Sanskrit word, Vastu. Vastu, Vastu. Vastu means substance. So he writes, the inherent substance, or Vastu, of the living entity is intrinsic. By the mercy of Krishna, a Vastu, once brought into existence, inherently possesses a permanent nature, known as its dharma. Thus, the innate nature is the nitya dharma of the Vastu. So the living entity is one category. It's like this table, it's Vastu. Or, anything. The screen, it's stuff. So, but then there's things that are, this table is eternal and the screen is not eternal. But things that are eternal, like jivas, they have their eternal nature, nitya dharma. He writes, Vastu is a derivative of the root vas, or to exist, or to dwell. Vastu therefore means that which exists, being self-evident and perceivable. It's just a different Sanskrit way of breaking down the Sanskrit terms and indicating what's the essence of a living entity. Even if the Vastu apparently transforms, the nitya dharma remains its intrinsic nature, latent within the seemingly changed Vastu by amelioration. That's a nice word. The act of relieving ills or changing for the betterment, amelioration. So evolution of a living entity in different species of life, for example, or evolution of ourselves in the course of our lifetime. The body is changing, and our minds are changing, and our values may also be changing, but there's something that's unchanging within. And that unchanging within us, or a living, any jiva, is its nitya dharma. And the nitya dharma will surely reassert itself. Bigger letters at the bottom. Even though the jiva is infinitesimal, his dharma, or true substance, same as with Prabhupada, the dharma of sugar is sweet, and the dharma of fire is heat and light. The dharma of the living entity is service, and Sanatan dharma is service to the Supreme. It's there. Like your question, can other traditions manifest this? Of course, because it's of the soul. It's just, is it of the soul or is it of the body and mind? That's the question. Tiny stature is the innate characteristic of the jiva, but only has reference to his size and not his function. Okay. So from the heart. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's the same in bhakti, and is
Yes.
that the same as the preaching in the Hare Krishna movement?
The form it differs. The substance doesn't. And the seed for the Hare Krishna movement, it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift of Vraja Prem. Krishna Prem is more specifically Vraja Prem. So the gift looks different. For example, in Christianity, the conception of the eternal abode of the Supreme Person isn't prevalent. In the bhakti tradition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is. Now, what's the capacity of a living entity that's very covered to have a proper sense of the eternal abode of God? Or other in this world manifestations of eternality like deity and name. So there's a theology that's connected, but that's the gift. And with the gift keeps giving. The name keeps giving. So the distribution of the name is the distribution of the gift. And the distributor of the name and the consciousness of the distributor of the name can make that distribution more effective. But it's still absolute, even if the distributor of the name may be a neophyte or child or not so elevated. But the gift is so. The form is different, the principle isn't. Taking people who are suffering and helping them be relieved of their suffering and connected to the mercy of, in Christianity, mercy of Jesus, the representative of God, and by that getting connected to the mercy of God, so they feel safe and protected even their situation is downtrodden. The mercy of God through the representative of God and the representative of the representatives of. But then what's the gift? Mitigation and elevation, in principle, same. And then what's the sadhya? What's the goal? The sadhana, then the sadhya. One could say love of God. And then what does that love of God look like? Then the essence, that the mature stage may look a little different, but the principle isn't. So many times Prabhupada spoke of Christ being, like Prahlad Maharaj. What was his wrong? Giving love of God. No. Does that address your question? More on that topic?
Yeah, I just wanted, because you brought up an interesting the comment about the gift being the name and the love energy, bhakti, being in the name itself. Because myself and many here, I'm sure, like, we're attracted by seeing the devotees and connecting with them first, and gradually getting pulled in as I met more people. And then I met grown adults and seeing how deep their compassion was. But not getting lost, and the message being clear that the source is the holy name, and that is the gift.
Well, it's two things. The Sarth is both the method, but it's also the fruit. I mean, because this is the theology of the holy name. It's the means, and it's also the end. Because within Krishna is everything. The name is non-different, so it's the means as well as the end. So, supposing it's like Vineet's question this morning. If we just continue long enough doing namabhasa, will we come to Shuddhanam? You're here for that discussion. So, how do you go from namabhasa to Shuddhanam? And it's not just by more namabhasa. More namabhasa, please. and some association. Not that it wasn't available before, because the namabhasa came about by association with devotees. But as one gets refined by the purification that comes from namabhasa, or the name, association with the name, then the understanding is it's not just about a behavior, it's about a transformation. This is Canto 2, Chapter 3. The pure devotional service, change in heart. It's there in that chapter. So by the answer I gave this morning is by association with a genuine sadhu who has genuine taste, and that association can help fan the spark of the namabhasa chanting to become Shuddhanam chanting. It's something that we need to do on our side, an aspiration that needs more focus and like laser focus. And laser focus doesn't mean I become oblivious to what's around me, but as I'm living my life and going about my life, the intention within my daily functioning and activities and words and being becomes much more focused. And that has a transforming effect in my chanting, the means, as well as the end. My experience of the name. And that everything was always right there within the name, and just I wasn't experiencing all of it yet. I hope my answers, my response is addressing what your concern is. You got to come forward because the microphone cable doesn't stretch very far. Hi, Krishna. Good to see you.
I have a quick question. Now, when we chant with the beads in the bag, we also have like a counter.
Yeah, we do.
So, do we need to chant with the beads only, or can we use the counter instead of beads?
You can chant without either.
Okay.
So it's a can we? And the answer is yes, you can. No, so then why have beads if it doesn't matter? It matters, because that wasn't the question. The contact with Tulsi it matters. Well, how does it matter as opposed to a counter or without the either? With Tulsi is very merciful. And we may not know that, but Tulsi is very merciful. And just by touching Tulsi, it's beneficial. Even if you just touch Tulsi and you don't chant, it's beneficial. But you touch Tulsi while chanting, beneficial, and it has an effect of by adding another sense, a tactile sense of touch, to the ear and to the tongue. It helps to focus the mind and spiritualize. And therefore the tradition is that the chanting, not just wood, but Tulsi beads, it has a spiritualizing effect, just contacting Tulsi. The same, people wear necklaces and we wear Tulsi necklaces. So,
Yes, Maharaj, like, even when I catch cold, I take Tulsi and it'll fix it.
Oh,
You're
good
right.
for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Just another question.
Another question.
So, Prabhupada prescribed 16 rounds of chanting.
Minimum.
Yes. So, my personal experience is when I chant like 4 rounds, I feel better, like physically.
Good.
And when I chant like 16 rounds, I kind of get something spiritual in my head. And sometimes I try chanting a lot of rounds, and my record was 108 rounds.
Really?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And at 64, I couldn't feel my body. Is that exaggeration? Is that an overstatement? It's like I couldn't feel anything. It was like I was floating in the air. Is that a
Bless your heart.
Hare Krishna?
Not everybody experiences that.
So it's
But that you experience that's, bless your heart. There's some mercy coming to you.
Hare Krishna.
And you can't expect that each time you chant 64.
That's correct. I tried it. So many times it didn't happen. It happened only
Okay,
the first
you
time.
got some mercy. Don't complain.
I still remember.
Don't complain.
I still remember. I pinched
And
myself.
don't expect, the mercy's got to come this way or else something's wrong with Krishna. Or mercy's got to come this way or something wrong with me. Mercy isn't contingent upon those things.
I even pinched myself. I couldn't feel a thing. It's
Well,
like,
bless your heart.
yeah, it was like, wow, that was. Yeah. It happened in Australia when I was in Sydney, Australia, North Sydney Temple. I had like a favorite place, and I picked that place and I chanted. I thought it was the place because I didn't feel it again. So I should try it again in Australia.
It's not the place, it's mercy. Don't expect, don't do like that. It can happen anywhere at any time.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Supposing you started levitating and floating around the room. Then you want to reproduce that one too, huh? Okay, anyone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful class. So you mentioned like how material compassion is a semblance of the real compassion,
Yes.
which is bhakti.
Yes.
But many times also it is recommended that we want to stay in the mode of goodness, and material compassion is one of the ways to stay in the mode of goodness, correct? For jump starting, elevating you beyond into bhakti compassion. So do we still continue that material compassion with striving for bhakti? And
Well,
how do you
the
understand?
recommendation is strive for the real thing. And that's what you should do. And don't strive for the reflection of the real thing, strive for the real thing. And when you're striving for the real thing, the reflection may become prominent. And that's just fine. And know that it's a reflection and it's not the real thing. So we don't have to strive for it. It'll come if you're striving for the real thing. Here's a little example. This is from Bhakti Sandarbha. Chanting, where it's not Shuddhanam, is like a lamp that's in a glass enclosure and there's some carbon built on the inside of the lamp. So the fullness of the light doesn't come through. But there's a lot of light that comes through a lamp that has some carbon on the inside of that glass enclosure. So should we strive for a glass enclosure that's got some carbon inside? No. We go clean out the glass enclosure, light the lamp, and more carbon's going to come because it's just the nature of. So you hit the reset button, and the compassion that I'm capable of may have this boundary. So that's fine. And it's not the full thing yet. I want the full thing. So let me continue with nothing wrong. It's good. Now, supposing someone has full compassion, there's no obstruction. There's no modes of nature acting. Are they going to feel compassion for, let's say, how often does Prabhupada speak about animal slaughter? Or Pandita Samadarshana, and so if you're feeling that way, how can you hurt even an ant? Magari, the hunter. You know the story. So there's compassion, but it happens, it's exhibited on the physical plane, but it's springing from the spiritual plane. For, the well-being of the soul. And then the well-being of the soul has its covering. And we don't want to give pain to the covering. So it may look like, for a pure devotee, it may look like worldly compassion. What about you and me? May not be transcendental compassion yet, but that's where we should know that's where it's coming from. And so we continue towards the goal. This is acceptance message that we heard yesterday. Actually, it was this morning. Acceptance that, that's where I am. But I want to get to where I want to go. Is there more to that question?
Yeah, there was another thing. So it would be like, so acceptance comes before the final stage of surrender or other things.
Well, no, the surrender is operating even at the acceptance stage. At the mixed stage, I'm less than perfect. And it's not like I shrug my shoulders and say I don't care. It's just by introspection, that's a quality of goodness, is introspection. I can see that's where I am. There's a mix. I'm not there yet. Just being honest, I'm not there yet. And so what do? I accept that's where I am. I don't beat myself up because I'm not there yet. And from that position, I go towards where I want to go. In the right method, by the right sangha, the right, practices, sincere practices. That's the acceptance part. So bhakti is there. It's just mixed at a certain stage. For a long time it's mixed. But we want to move towards Shuddha.
Yeah. I had another question.
Okay, go ahead. You got the microphone. Go for it.
So, how do we understand compassion in the mode of goodness versus indifference, just, what do you say? I think, that's the question. being compassionate, but still at the same time not getting too.
Well, it's recognizing your limits, our limitations, compassion. At the same time, I'm not the controller. Someone else is the controller, and I'm the servant of that someone else. So that I can make some effort to reach out and help another. That's my compassion. And sometimes people reach out to other people. It's actually detrimental. But their intention is to do something beneficial. And giving somebody some food when they shouldn't have some food when they're ill or something like that. Anyway, it's not a good example, but there's examples. Your intention is something that's of benefit, and you don't know the whole picture. Your intention is good, and it's to the detriment of the other person without you knowing it. That happens. So now we're less than perfect beings. So to get on to address that dynamic, which is certainly possible, then we have to know what's the right thing to do. Like, just take this example of the supervisor and the subordinate in the workplace. The person, the subordinate in the workplace, didn't try to put Krishna in the face of their supervisor, because that would have been, there would have been a pushback. So they didn't. Rather, they were just exhibiting the qualities and character of a Vaishnava. Always undisturbed. It's chaos here in the workplace, and you're always there undisturbed. We go to you with questions, you have the answers, and you stay undisturbed. Like, what's the secret here? So the character was more compelling than the words. Because the character was there, it invoked the question, what's with you? And I don't know if you want to hear. Oh, come on, tell. Oh, no. So, we have to know, intelligence is making a decision or just discernment, what's appropriate in this time, place, circumstance. The intention is pleasing Krishna, that's bhakti. And what's going to be effective? So that requires some intelligence. We're not always intelligent. Somehow.
Thank you.
Someone else? Yes.
So sometimes, like, normally, when we offend Vaishnavas, or then our heart becomes hard,
Yes.
because of which we can't desire, right? So sometimes when you
That's just like,
later on realize, like, you have offended someone, maybe you have offended someone, but you don't have the chance to meet later on, so you pray, or
what to do.
what to do. Yeah.
When you've offended it and you feel your heart has become closed, what to do? And the person that you've offended, or maybe have offended, isn't accessible. What to do? There's other categories, people that you don't even know.
Yeah. Unknown also, yes.
Yeah, unknown. So here's Prabhupada's answer when asked this question. His answer, therefore, every day, was built into our morning program. At the end, after the Tulsi prayers, Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So it can just be a ritual, and then it doesn't have much power. Rituals are not so, the power is there, but just doing it in a ritual or routine way, it just becomes mechanical and it doesn't have the same fullness. But if you're sincere, since you're sincere, when you make such some awareness comes, and for sure, somewhere along the line, persons we don't even know we've offended, what do we do? I can't go and find them because we don't even know what we did. But we know that we've offended somehow because we're just imperfect beings. So what to do?
Yeah, sometimes
that's the answer. Panchakalpatrubhyasya. So it's a mantra or a prayer, but if it's feelingly recited, so let's go back to the quality of humility. Like how does one get that nice quality of humility? By associating with people who are humble, by sadhu sangha. So you have something you want to add to this?
I'm not familiar with the mantra. Can you explain
Sure,
it to me?
sure. Kalpaturu is a desire tree. Turu is tree. Kalpaturu is a desire tree. So it's the Vaishnavas are like desire trees. It's the prayer says. And so we're going to the Vaishnava who's like a desire tree. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa. Kripa means mercy. Sindhu means an ocean. Sindhu. Kripa Sindhu. They're like desire trees that are full of compassion for all living entities. And so I'm approaching them with the request that the mistakes that I have made, the offenses that I've done to offend you, because you're this ocean of mercy and very kind, please be kind upon me and overlook those offenses or forgive me for those offenses. Patitana. Patita means fallen. That's me. There are these exalted persons, entities, and I'm this patita. Vaishnavebhyo. Namo namaha. Namo namaha. Offer my obeisances unto. This is Namo namaha. I offer my obeisances unto such Vaishnavas who are very compassionate. And for a fallen person like me that does offense to exalted personalities like Vaishnavas, please be kind upon me and forgive me for my shortcomings and my offenses. And help me become pavana, purified. So that's the meaning. It's submission to those who are exalted, recognizing that I'm not. And because of my not being not, I've made offenses. So please help me become purified. Be kind. Okay, it's 7:16. My computer has a clock. And I have a call at 7:30, so I can take, a little bit more, but I need to disappear.
So, a purest devotee is the same as Krishna?
A pure devotee is
Is he the same as Krishna?
a what?
It's the same as
This pure devotee is qualitatively like Krishna, but not the same as Krishna.
Can pure devotee go back to Krishna because where he came
Well,
from?
if Krishna wants them, he may want them to stay here and make unclean people clean. That's another thing Krishna may want. And the pure devotee is fine with whatever Krishna wants, because that's at the heart of bhakti, right? Doing what Krishna wants.
Wow.
Because we're attached. We're not attached to suffering, but we're attached to the sources of our suffering. So when we want to get free from suffering and get back to our real happiness, we're attached to the sources of our suffering. That's the obstacle or the difficulty, why it takes time. Gradual process, because of our attachments to the sources of suffering, the sources of illusion. It's not a nice thing to admit, but it's true. Okay, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki. Tomorrow morning.